Do we see Chad Voigt yet?
Quiz, it looks like we have a quorum if we want to go ahead and get started today.
All right, how's everybody doing today? Thumbs up, blink your eyes, do something that's kind of squirrely, whatever you need to do. I like it. Down under push-ups, whatever it is. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10:31. This is Aaron Quisenberry, chair for the MPO Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Item B, is there any public comment?
Just a second, Quiz. I have an introduction if you'll let me read it.
That's fine, Jessica.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the August 18th, 2020 Metropolitan Planning Organization Technical Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Jessica Mortinger and I will be facilitating the Zoom meeting portion of the meeting. I will work alongside TAC Chair Aaron Quisenberry, who is on remote video to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Currently, I have everyone muted so we can talk through the general ground rules of today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's
YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everyone to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute yourself when and if you want to speak. In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon located next to the microphone icon. For the purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on for the duration. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker, gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. A few reminders to ensure that the provisions of the Kansas Open Meeting Act are met today. As participants, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Individuals who signed up in advance to provide public comment remotely will be called upon by name, although today no one has signed up in advance. When you are called upon, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call in-person public comment for those who are physically present. At this time, there's no one physically present. Staff will direct you to the podium to speak while following social distancing and safety protocols. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After the motion is made and seconded, staff will call on each commissioner or TAC member individually to provide their vote. Staff will then need to announce whether the motion carried in the count of the vote. I want to again remind everyone to please mute yourself when you're not speaking. I'll now turn the meeting back over to the chair, Aaron Quisenberry.
This is Aaron Quisenberry, and Jessica, that was a mouthful, I will tell you. So let's go ahead and get started. Item number B on the agenda, is there any public comment?
Jessica Mortinger, we have received no public comment in writing. There's no one signed up and no one is present to provide public comment today.
Fair enough. Let's go to item C. This is Aaron Quisenberry. Approval of the minutes. Our last meeting was from June 2nd, and we have the minutes that are attached. I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to review them. We'll need to take action on approval of the June 2nd, 2020 minutes. Do I have a first or a second for approval? Or any comment?
This is Allison Smith, and I move to approve.
This is Melinda Harger, and I second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Allison and seconded by Melinda to go ahead and approve the June 2nd, 2020 minutes. All those in favor?
Just a second, I'll do a roll call vote. This is Jessica Mortinger, and we'll begin based on our TAC sign-in sheet. Do I have Chad Voigt? Absent. Melinda Harger?
Aye.
Brandon Boyd?
Aye.
Ed Corton?
Aye.
Lindley Sanford?
Aye.
Jeff Crick?
I'll abstain as I was not on the board at that time.
Okay. Allison Smith?
Aye.
Adam Weigel,
Aye.
Aaron Quisenberry.
Aye.
7 with 1 absent and 1 abstaining. To 0, the motion carries.
All right, fair enough. We're going into item D, which is the regular agenda items. Number 1 on the agenda is a review of the FFY19 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP Amendment 7B.
And I'm,
Thank you. Oh, but
yep, I'm going to defer to Ashley and allow her to host to be able to share with you to present the tip item. This is Jessica Morringer.
this is Ashley Myers, Transportation Planner, and I'm going to share my screen. So you can see the summary. All right, so the TIP, or the Transportation Improvement Program, is a 4-year listing of federally funded and regionally significant projects that we update every 2 years, and actually we're in the middle of doing that right now. But in the meantime, we do quarterly amendments, and we started TIP Amendment 7 with public comment on July 16 through July 31st, but we realized we needed to add the Lawrence Transit electric buses project, which was the grant that Lawrence Transit received, to the TIP amendment so they could get going on that. And so we restarted public comment period on July 28th, and it lasted until August 12th. We did not receive any public comments during any of the public comment periods. And the TIP amendment itself includes a couple of projects, a new project, repairing a bridge on K10 over the Wakarusa River over towards Eudora, and then the 5 electric battery buses for Lawrence Transit. And then there were just changes to reflect actual conditions for the K10 Westlake surfacing project. The project in Baldwin City on US 56 needed to be pushed to 2020, and then the K10 27th Street Wakarusa Drive intersection improvements just needed to have the funding revised. Any questions about this TIP amendment? It is fiscally constrained, and as I said, we did not receive any public comments.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. Does anybody have any questions for Ashley? All right, seeing none, the action we would take today would be to recommend approval of the FFY19 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP Amendment 7B. Can I get a motion for approval?
This is Ed Cortana. I'll make a motion for approval.
Adam Weigel, I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Ed and seconded by Adam to go ahead and approve the FFY19 Transportation Improvement Program TIP Amendment 7B. All of those in favor, please say aye, but we're going to let Jessica do the roll call again.
Chad,
This stuff's just crazy, so yeah, let's just.
Jessica Mortinger, I'll proceed to do a roll call vote. Chad Voigt,
Aye.
Melinda Harger,
Aye.
Brandon Boyd,
Aye.
Ed Corton,
Aye.
Lindley Sanford,
I honestly had a phone call and a resident come in.
On the Transportation Improvement Program amendment,
Aye.
Jeff Crick,
Aye.
Allison Smith,
Aye.
Adam Weigel,
Aye.
Aaron Quisenberry.
Aye.
In a 9-0 unanimous action motion, that carries.
All right, this is Aaron Quisenberry again. So item number 2 on the agenda is to re-elect a vice chair. If you guys remember, Leslie Herron was elected to the vice chair back in February, but since then she has left her position in Eudora, And because of that, we are looking to elect a new vice chair for the remainder of the 2020 year. Jessica and or Ashley, would either of you like to give just the group kind of some general responsibilities for the position before we take action on it?
Absolutely. Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager, and the vice chair basically serves in the role of the chair
In the absence of Aaron Quisenberry for the remainder of this calendar year, before a new chair and vice chair are appointed for 2021. And so they basically read as quiz is done through the agenda and help us as staff facilitate meetings. That's really the extent of the role of the vice chairship for this committee. We have a lot of new members, so we're looking to anybody who's kind of a little more familiar, who's been here a few months with us, maybe to fill this role. I anticipate the maximum number of meetings we could have for the remainder of the year would be 4. We don't anticipate having that many, and then, that's only in quiz's absence. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if anybody has.
Well, this is Aaron Quisenberry. It's awful quiet on that other end. So, Jessica, I'm just going to see if there's anybody who is interested in serving in this role. Is there anybody interested in serving in the vice chair role for the remainder of 2020?
This is Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services Director for the City of Lawrence. I might be the newest one here, but I would be willing to serve if that would help out this morning.
This is Aaron Quisenberry again. Jeff, yes, that would help out tremendously. Is there anybody else who's interested in serving in the capacity of vice chair, excuse me?
This is Melinda Harger, and now that I feel bad for Jeff, I'm willing to take on that role. I've been part of this for a few months, I think.
Okay, Aaron Quisenberry, we have 2 now, Jeff Crick and Melinda Harger. Anybody else? Okay, Jessica Mortinger, do you want to go forward with the processes for voting with 2 members interested in serving in the capacity?
Yeah, I think we're just looking for a motion and a second before we do a roll call vote. Jessica Mortinger.
Okay, this is Aaron Quisenberry. I didn't know if one of them had to leave and someone's given a quick
No.
1 or 2 minute spiel or anything like that. That's my student senate days. So, is there anybody else interested in serving the capacity before we close it? I am hearing none. So, I just got a motion to move forward with voting for this position for Jeff and Melinda serving in the vice chair role. Are we good to go ahead and vote?
Well, I think we're looking for a motion and second for someone, Aaron, and I think we would choose one, not both.
I don't know. I didn't know if we had to have a motion first to vote.
Yeah, we do. Yes.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services Director. I'd be glad to nominate Melinda as the vice chair for the rest of the calendar year.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. So, Jeff, are you withdrawing yourself?
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services Director. I think at this point I am, yes.
Okay, can Jeff and I just have a normal conversation here? Can we sort this out? All right, so Jeff has withdrew. Melinda, are you okay to serve in this capacity?
Melinda Harger, yes, I am.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. We have 1 person interested in the vice chair for the remainder of 2020. All those in favor of putting Melinda Harger in that position, please say aye.
Aaron, this is Jessica Mortinger. Aaron Quisby, I'm looking for we need a second on that motion first before we vote.
This is
Ed
Adam Weigel.
Cortano,
I'll give a
second
second.
that motion.
Okay.
All right, it's been first and seconded to go ahead and put Melinda in the position for vice chair. All those in favor, say aye.
All right, Jessica Mortinger, and I'll do a roll call vote.
Aye.
It's okay. Chad Voigt,
Aye.
Melinda Harger,
Aye.
Brandon Boyd,
Aye.
Ed Corton,
Aye.
Linda Lee Sanford,
I,
Jeff Crick,
Aye.
Allison Smith,
Aye.
Adam Weigel,
Aye.
Aaron Quisenberry,
Yes.
and unanimously 9-0, that passes.
Okay, this is Aaron Quisenberry. That was something for sure. Okay, item number 3 on the regular agenda is the 2021 Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP planning discussion. Staff and the committee will discuss the MPO work plan for 2021. I'll turn this back over to Ashley and/or Jessica.
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. I'm going to ask Ashley to share her screen. I had sent you an email list earlier, and that's what we're sharing. It's kind of the compilation of some of all the conversations we've had so far and previous year's lists as we start to look at what projects we would consider to do for planning to be built into the 2021 Unified Planning Work Program, which the MPO is required to develop prior to the end of 2020 for us to be eligible to spend our consolidated planning grant funding. We're looking at what we would budget for our 2 full-time staff positions to do, but also our intern shares and other part-time staff that are billed to the grant, as well as possibly a shared consulted project, just kind of based on how all the numbers come out and what we end up have remaining at the end of the year for carryover from 2020. So I'm just going to kind of go through this list, and then I would like TAC members, if you have other things you would like us to consider, this would be a good time to have that conversation. And then we'd like to talk a little bit about what you all believe are the priorities for our region. So we can kind of have a good idea to come back to you with a draft Unified Planning Work Program document at a future meeting that will go through a public comment period that you would vote on and recommend to the MPO Policy Board before the end of the year. So I'll just kind of start at the top of this list. These are in no particular order. It was really a brainstorm. And putting together some of the stuff we think that's ongoing, that might remain in process, and/or some new projects that have come to light. So revisions to the major thoroughfares map, there's been some discussion in Lawrence, I think related to some road construction, that there might be a need and an interest in looking at best practice review, design standards, and stratification of collector streets. And that would require an amendment to T2040, which would happen prior to 2022, the update process to update T2040, our long-range plan. Looking at safe routes to school implementation, there's some things in our ongoing draft work that's happening now in relationship to safe routes to school and thinking about that. We have a countywide bikeway plan, the countywide city portion, and the other Eudora, LeCompton, and Baldwin City portion of that, which is currently ongoing, that may carry over into 2021. Coordinated work with Paratransit and human services transportation providers, thinking about if we update our coordinated public transit human services transportation plan. That's in our UPWP now. We haven't began it. We would need to think about how that coordinates, I think, with the one on the list 2 down, which is transit route restructuring study to support a transit transfer center. We envision that could possibly be a consulted project that would be cost shared with transit. Bicycle rideability map update has been on our list and it's been in kind of an uncompleted project for a few years now, and that could be something we could entertain working to do, whether that's a print-based map and/or an app-based function. We were looking at some pedestrian planning work related to updating the current pedestrian plan, whether that's just in Lawrence or for all the cities in the region, thinking about, particularly in Lawrence, one of the implementation factors that's in safe routes. It's going to be recommended as some crossing work in terms of analyzing some comfort at crossings, whether that's a model, identifying projects for the Lawrence non-motorized prioritization list. That could be done in conjunction with municipal services and operations working on a crossing policy. The pedestrian planning could also include some additional work that goes beyond just an inventory and networks. That's the heavy focus of the current plan, and look at more walkability and code revisions, land use impacts to design and policy level discussion. We thought a little bit about, and this has been on the list before, thinking about multimodal wayfinding, particularly in Lawrence, but there could be opportunities, I think, countywide to make transportation more accessible, and there could be links in Lawrence to downtown planning work. The Bike Boulevard on 21st Street had some wayfinding design, but it wasn't implemented. Thinking about how that would fit into a larger scale picture for bikes, but also for ped and cars. And thinking about a same citywide design and kind of policies around sign location and warrants. We had major transportation corridor overlays or access management plans. Thinking specifically in Lawrence, there's some placeholders in the code that could be fleshed out with street profiles or policy level access management planning type work. A pilot for tactical urbanism policy, thinking about reverse angle parking. Rural transportation options, exploring rideshare and paratransit for Eudora, Baldwin City, and Lecompton. That's kind of a recurring theme we've heard about when we had the Center for Transportation in and studying that issue a little bit. They had gone a little bit into some of the warrants for that, since there have been some other rideshare programs kind of popped up related to Senior Resource Center. We could go back and take a look at some of that and the demand or need for rural transportation. Multimodal traffic impact study requirements. This is something that Municipal Services and Operations has started in Lawrence, thinking about how that fits into some of our larger T2040 goals. On the work plan for 2020 is the Intelligent Transportation Systems Plan, and looking at to investigate whether we need an update to that, how in compliance we are. Not sure if that's going to get done this year. If not, that might be something we roll into 2021. We'll start to take a look at that. And then other MPO core work, so things like our Transportation Improvement Program amendments, our UPWP development, performance measure tracking and targets, or maybe consider a public participation plan update, some minor revisions just based on COVID to make sure it explicitly kind of clarifies what we're doing in the state of pandemic and non-meeting in person. Then I have the question of anything else, and this is kind of where I would expect and ask for some comment from the group, but also there's a few other notes there that we realized the 23rd Street corridor land use study, which we anticipated participating in with the 2020 UPWP, is going to likely be pushed to 2022 at the earliest. 2022 will also be when we would start a new long-range transportation plan, which we anticipate will be called T2050 at this point. And then there's maybe a future need in 2022 you can kind of see for transit zero emissions plan. And then we kind of also know of the scooter pilot that we anticipate to happen in 2021 if we want to think about how that fits into some of the other things you saw above on our list. That's kind of all we have as staff put together and through some conversations with stakeholders. But we would entertain any conversation from members about anything that's missing, they feel is missing off this list, and or a conversation about what anybody feels are the priorities of this list that the MPO should focus on trying to build into a work program for 2021.
Jessica, this is Aaron Quisenberry. Just a clarification on the electric, zero emission transit plan. Is that for all city buses, all city vehicles, everything? Does that also include the KU on Wheels buses, or is it really just the city buses? Can you give a little more clarification on that?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. I'm going to ask Adam to answer that, what he kind of had envisioned in previous conversations we've had with Adam Weigel as the Transit Manager for Lawrence Transit. I think that is open to interpretation. I think he had just mentioned that future consideration for competitive grant making would be looking for that sort of planning from municipalities.
This is Adam Weigel, TAC member. Yeah, so you hit that on the head, Jessica. In our early conversations with CTE, who will be project managing our electric bus project. They mentioned that, you know, as we continue to apply for competitive grants for electric buses, whether they be for Lawrence Transit or for KU on Wheels, more and more FTA is going to be looking that we have a long-term plan for our transition and pointing to that with our requests, making sure that all lines up. So that was the intent here. I don't know that I had considered it looking at other electric vehicles throughout the city. I'm intrigued by that thought. I'm not sure that it would be feasible to expand the scope of this, but yeah, quiz in general, I think we were looking at this being not just Lawrence Transit buses, but Lawrence Transit and KU on Wheels system holistically.
Yeah, just as Aaron Quisenberry just replying, and just so I know with, you know, not knowing how budgets will be working with student enrollment and things like that, that would obviously be a pretty big factor in whether or not KU on Wheels will be able to convert to electric, and we've obviously already seen that kind of play out this year with that. But that's just why I wanted to know that.
Adam Weigel, TAC member. I'll just speak with some bias here, but I'm very interested in the route restructuring study. That's a priority for us. It helps fit into our timing for development of the multimodal transfer facility that we're coordinating with KU on at Bob Billings and Crestline. It would be critical for us to understand what our routes look like before we move into the design process of that facility so that we know how many bus bays we ultimately need. So I would just speak to the priority of that from our perspective.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. Are there any other comments on the items Jessica has laid out here? Or Jessica, do you have further comment on anything?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. Well, we won't be able to do all of these things, but we welcome continued conversation if anybody has any thoughts about scoping any of these as we begin to kind of look at building this list. We'll kind of draft based on what we think is realistic within budget and staffing constraints. We'll try to be really generous and hope that we can have increased productivity around some of these items. I'd rather leave some stuff on the list than not be able to do it because we don't have it in the plan. But again, if anybody has anything else, we would entertain that or prioritization comments.
Quiz, this is Ed Corton. I just have a couple of comments if I can.
Yep, go ahead.
Safe Routes to Schools implementation. I've talked to Ashley and Jessica on that. I think that's great to continue to move forward. My concern is just trying to have any kind of public meeting with respect to small town during the middle of COVID. And I appreciate I know that we have basically a draft document and given us a little time to work through that. I'm right now working through our Public Safety Committee to provide some initial comments. So maybe in about a month, I'll have some comments from you, from our Public Safety Committee. But want to move forward with that. I would like to entertain the idea of moving forward with the rural transportation options. I presume this would be adding to what the consultant provided as recommendations from about a year or so ago. Is that right?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. Yeah, we haven't scoped that. I think it remains on the list, Ed. I know it was something Leslie was interested for Eudora also. And so I think figuring out what those recommended, going back and looking at that previous work and figuring out what we would need to do there in terms of exploring planning around that, like what that would look like. I think the biggest challenge that we came to, especially at the end of the previous study, was funding and some of those constraints. So I think that's, there could be some additional work done in terms of implementing some of that. I think unless there's funding identified to do that, that's kind of where we hit some previous roadblocks.
It always relies on funding. And then the pedestrian plan update, like the idea of doing that, kind of merging that in, the elements that make sense with the Safe Route to Schools. As you know, we're in the process of, we applied for at least a conceptual plan for another TA grant as part of the implementation of that draft Safe Route to Schools study. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks how KDOT responds with that conceptual plan. That's all I have.
Thanks, Ed. This is Aaron Quisenberry again. Anybody else have any other comments on the list that Jessica's provided?
This is Melinda Harger. I also just wanted to highlight the pedestrian plan update. I like the idea of making that a priority. We are looking at priority routes for pedestrians, well, bike ped, but definitely pedestrians as we look at our sidewalk improvement program as well. So getting an update to that would be great.
Thanks, Melinda. Aaron Quisenberry again. Anybody else have any other comments they'd like to add? Jessica, this is a really big list, right? Realistically, where do you guys see shaking out with all this?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. I don't know yet. I think I got to dive into it a little bit more and do a little bit of research to figure out how some of these projects would be scoped for what the work would entail to kind of make my best guess at putting together a program budget. And that's the work I'll be doing before I come back with a draft for you to entertain. So there will be another opportunity you'll have to kind of comment on what staff proposes should be our work plan for 2021 based on the feedback we've received.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. Thank you, Jessica.
Yep.
Anybody else have any other comments they would like to add to this list? And one more question for Jessica. Will the group get to see this list again to make other comments you stated? Would that happen at the September meeting possibly, or would that happen later on in the year?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. That'll happen later in the year, and when you see it next time, it'll be in work plan format. So it'll be an 18 to 20 page document attached with a budget that has all the lists of activities and projects that we would anticipate doing. It's what it will look like, what the UPWP would look like that you would be voting on. That would be the next process of that you would see.
Thank you. This is Aaron Quisenberry again. Is there any further action needed on this, Jessica?
No, this is Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. No, this is just a discussion today to help inform the staff that the work that staff will do.
All right, fair enough. We're going to move on to item E, which is quick updates. And one item on that section is the bicycle and pedestrian counts. I'm going to forward this to Ashley and or Jessica again.
Yeah, Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. We just wanted to give you an update. We worked about a couple things related to bicycle and pedestrian counts. We worked with Friends of Lawrence Area Trails to do some Lawrence Loop bike ped counts in the COVID times to kind of start to look at how this pandemic has changed demand for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and usage. And so we replicated the health impact assessment counts that had been done about 3 years ago. And we're working on kind of a report, and we'll put that out and share that with you in the future. But overall, we had some things in our counting that we're not sure our methodology is really set to capture a pandemic, because we believe peak usage times have changed, and that became really evident when our projections overall were mostly consistent with 3 years ago. However, the weekday counts were astronomically higher, and the weekend counts were a lot lower. We had some temperature variation that impacted that. And you'll see a further kind of documented report out from us on that, but it's kind of some interesting analysis. To follow up on that, we're coordinating with Lawrence Municipal Services and Operations and some engineering staff to test some new automated bike ped counters that have been purchased in partnership with public health, and try to get some like 12-hour counts so we can better estimate when our peaks are, to kind of modify our methodology that we use for our manual counts, which is where volunteers go out and manually collect the data. We're kind of looking at that and considering how we're going to move forward. We don't anticipate having a robust
volunteer-led count program this fall. That would be typical to our normal count program. We're hoping to do some of this background data work to really set ourselves up to better collect data data with our counters in the future, and kind of expand our capacity beyond just volunteer
counts at this point. So that's kind of where we're at with that, and we just wanted to share that update with you.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. Does anybody have any questions for Jessica?
This is Adam Weigel, TechNumber. I'm just interested in the counting technology. Are they mobile counters that we can move around to different locations, or do we anticipate them being at certain spots for a longer period of time?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. These would be mobile counting devices, and they're currently out being used. So they'd be ones we could move around, similar to the ones that the MPO share with the other MPOs. But these would be specifically owned by the City of Lawrence, and they could support more of the Multimodal Transportation Commission's kind of desired information and data related to bike ped counts that's more robust than just the MPO counting program. So it will probably be a part of the neighborhood traffic management program was to acquire counters, and there will be more counters acquired. So we're testing some different technologies.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. Any other questions for Jessica? All right, we're going to move on to item F, which is other business. We do not have any items listed under here. Ashley and or Jessica, are there any other business items that we need to discuss under item F?
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. I'll take a moment to introduce, you probably see two new faces on our call. The MPO has recently hired two new interns, and so I'll introduce Ari Leva and Sarah Buford, and they can both take a moment to, you see them waving there, they can take a moment to say hi if they want, but they will be joining us in much of our complete work and help us complete much of the work we've talked about today and the remaining work on our 2020 UPWP, and we're very excited to have them.
Thank you, Jessica. This is Sarah. I'm an MPO intern. Thank you guys for having me. I look forward to working with all of you guys for the next few months.
Ari, we can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Jessica, for introducing us. I look forward to working with all of you.
This is Aaron Quisenberry. All right. Any other business under item F that needs to be brought up? Okay, seeing none, we are at the end of the meeting. Item G, our next meeting is set for September 1, 2020. I'm assuming Ashley and or Jessica, you'll let us know as we approach that date if that meeting will stay in place. I know you mentioned that we might not meet all the meetings all the way through the school year or the academic year or calendar year, whatever it is, through 2020, but just kind of keep us updated as we approach the date if you think that meeting is going to stay on or not.
Jessica Mortinger, Transportation Planning Manager. At this time, we don't have any items to schedule for that meeting, so we anticipate we will be canceling it. But you'll see that formal email from us.
Okay. So in lieu of finishing the meeting, Jessica, do we need a motion to adjourn?
No, we can just adjourn today.
So different than student senate stuff, I'm telling you. Fair enough. Okay, we're at the end of the meeting today, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. Everybody have a great day and a great week.